This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dean Groves. I'm remoting in through the GoTo application. I can't quite tell who's present in the room.
Everyone Don is here. Don Bickle. Randy Bottleson is actually here. He's sitting out in the Gen Pop out there. Ted Crawford is here, and Jennifer, is it Niesendorf? Nisenoff, sorry. She's here.
Okay. And anyone from Castle?
There's no one here from Castle. Mr. Geppert is joining us, and we also have myself, Laura Leroy, and our Public Works Director, Keith Riddle, is here as well.
Okay. Well, sounds like we have a quorum. Um, Thanks everybody for coming to the meeting today, and hope everyone is doing all right after last week's hurricane. Um, I know we all suffered some amount of damages and more inconveniences with power and water. Um, we're going to, why don't we move to the approval of minutes? The minutes had been sent out as a draft.
Hang on. We got to follow the order of, everybody has to follow the same order. So we have to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. You kind of skipped and did the roll call. And if anybody has public comment, we have to give them a chance to speak before you approve your minutes.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
With liberty, justice for all.
And okay, so we already did the roll call. So I don't have any forms for anyone to sign up for public comment. I believe you're the only non-Gateway staff member online, so I'm pretty sure none of them wanted to speak. Mr. Gapper, did you have anything that you wanted to say, or you're just here to observe? Okay, I think we're good. There's no public comment.
Okay. So, minutes of the September 15th meeting had been prepared and distributed, and then appended to the attached to the agenda as well. Did anybody have any comments on the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve as presented?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second.
Oh, we did. Okay, I couldn't hear. Thank you.
Oh, make sure your button is popped up on your microphone.
This one?
Yep, now you're on. We were having technical difficulties with the sound. You should be able to hear them now. All right, so Ted made the motion, Jennifer second.
Okay, thank you, Ted, Jennifer. Any comments? All in favor? Say aye. Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have no financial report. I don't know whether we will ever get to the point of having a financial report, but at the present time, we have no financial report. So items for discussion. There's 4 items on the agenda. And this first one is regarding the triangular island on Prado Drive. Jennifer, can you lead the discussion on this?
Sure. There's a triangular area on Prado Drive. It's very similar to what we looked at in Aviano about a year or so ago. One of our residents, Richard Brew, who is the president of the Prado Pistoia HOA, submitted a request to us. He had heard that we had a program where we had a professional firm who would come out and investigate signage at different areas within the development. I said I would be happy to bring this to the group to talk about. I told him I wasn't quite sure what the status of that program was, whether it was still alive. I know we had quite a few things go through that program. So today what I'd like to do is ask Is that program still alive, and do we still have the capability of submitting new requests to it? And if so, how do we go about perhaps getting this particular area within Prado submitted into that program? Does anyone know?
Well, I'll express my opinion, and then Laura, you might want to add to that. Uh, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that as a subcommittee, we have the ability to make recommendations regarding how our budget gets spent. And in the case of providing professional services, we have a consultant that we have used fairly recently on the on the Prado Circle uh, restriping plan that we spoke about last month. Um, and if this is something that we want to engage our consultant uh, on as another assignment, we could do that. We would request a a proposal of a fee estimate, if you will. Then we would consider that fee estimate and whether or not we wanted to award uh, the work to that consultant.
Okay. And in the new procedures that we have going right now, I mean, in the past, we would just discuss it as a group and kind of make the decision. Is that still how we go about doing it? I don't know whether there's a different sort of procedure.
There's actually a form now
Okay.
for you to fill out to request a purchase order once the group decides that they want to spend the money on those things.
Okay.
Because you don't actually have financials, it's actually coming out of the general PPAC budget. Somebody would need to go to PPAC to request it, and then PPAC can approve it, and then you can submit the fund or the request for the purchase order to me, and then I will take care of doing
Okay.
that. So the committee, the subcommittee can't actually make recommendations. You can make observations and then give your reports
Okay.
to PPAC. So that's the unfortunate thing about the subcommittees is that they don't have power
Yeah.
to make recommendations, but you can make observations. So you can
Okay.
observe that there may be a need for something here, take that to PPAC, and then you can do that, and then they would listen to your observations and then approve or not, or they can make the recommendation for spending the funds, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
And if we decide that we want to make this particular observation, do we come to you to get on the PPAC agenda?
Those would
or
all go through Georgia.
go through Georgia?
Mhm.
Okay.
She is the
And
liaison.
and so what
This-
one thing that we would do is we'd coordinate through Georgia and strive to get our observations reflected on in time for the next PPAC meeting, which is
Correct.
in a couple of
It's
days, I
actually,
think.
yeah, it's
Well,
actually Thursday,
okay,
so it
so
would
we
have to
probably
wait
won't
until the
make
one in
that.
November. Right.
Okay.
Can we discuss this?
Yeah.
You can.
with-
That's why we're here, and we're in the
Okay.
sunshine, so you
All
can
right.
talk about it
Part
now.
of it, like I said, I apologize. I just don't know all the correct
Oh, I
procedures
know.
anymore.
No,
Yeah, that's why we
I'm
have to
with
have
you.
the meetings publicly so you can discuss these things.
Yeah. And
You just can't make any decisions. You can
Okay.
talk about what you found and kind of like put together your group observation that you want to bring to
Okay.
PPAC, and then that's where it would
Yeah.
move from there.
okay.
Well,
I'll
with,
let you talk now, so about the
with
observation.
no disrespect to Prado residents, I think we have bigger fish to fry. This intersection is way in the corner of Pelican Reserve. I don't know what, I've been back there. I don't know what signage Mr. Rue would want or why. It's not too confusing to me, and it can't be used by more than maybe 50 people. So I just don't think it's worth our while.
Has he made it clear what his safety concern is?
Not specifically, no. I mean, he thinks that some of the signage could be confusing. It might be too far away from where somebody would be able to see it, but nothing really specific. And nothing really that says we have an issue where people have almost had accidents or
Nothing
anything
like
like that. Right.
But the
And
only
ju-
thing,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but the only thing confusing, I see at that location is a stop sign. You don't know if you're supposed to go to continue on and then make a left-hand turn, or just make a left-hand turn on the curvature part of the island there. That's the only thing I see that could be confusing, but I agree, it's
Right.
not the biggest issue.
And there's no incoming traffic from the service road that you have to worry about. There shouldn't be much.
Right, very small. I mean, a few GSCDD trucks.
Yeah, there shouldn't be anybody except for us coming and
I
going
mean,
back
if we had
there.
all the money in the world, sure, but, you know, to do a study and put up signage, boy, we have other things I'd rather spend our money on.
Where's the stop sign now?
It's
Is it
right at the
If you
corner.
look
Where
at
A
the
is?
second the next slide,
Sure, I can slide.
it'll show you.
Oh,
Can you put the there you go.
screen on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sharing. I didn't think to turn
Yeah.
that one on. I'm sorry.
I tend to agree with you, but I
Please speak up. I can't hear you.
thought it would be.
Oh, we were just
Yeah.
discussing. I forgot to
Yeah,
turn the
sure.
TV on so the audience can't see
Absolutely.
the screen.
Yeah, I can't hear the conversation either, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I don't, I think my mic's on.
Is the button
I
popped up?
I can hear you now. When you if you're speaking more directly towards the microphone, I can hear
Okay.
you now.
Okay, I'll do a better job.
There you go. Thank you, Jennifer.
How the traffic flows at this area and what the issues are?
Well, it flows from a couple of different ways. One, if you look at the first slide, okay, you can come from A, and from A, you can either turn left where it's curved, or you can continue up to where it kind of dead ends and turn left. You can come in from C, and the same kind of phenomenon occurs. You can either curve right, or you can go up to where, right before the B, and turn right onto Prado. B is the construction or service entrance, depending, you know, safety gate, whatever. Emergency access, thank you. Right now, the only people I believe who are allowed to use it are GSCDD, and very little traffic from what I understand coming through there from them. And so they can come in and either go straight or go left. So that's the traffic flow. The issue is that the resident who submitted this said that it could be confusing on who has to stop and when because of the signage and where the signage actually is posted. And that's what you can kind of see on the second slide. And what I tried to do is mark the A, B, and C and then show you looking toward A, looking toward B, and looking toward C. So there's a stop sign at the intersection.
At the intersection near the service road.
Yes.
Okay.
Then there's a crosswalk and yield sign. And then on the third location, which is location C, there's a yield sign that's, you can see it's on the island. You can't see it very well in the picture, but it's in the center of the picture.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll blow it up a little
So
bit.
that's, okay. Oh, yeah, that helps.
It's right here.
There it is. So the construction exit entrance
here.
is straight ahead on that picture.
This is where you come up the service road this way and then in, or does it come this way and then over?
I believe it's straight in.
Service road
Yeah, straight in.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on location C, we're facing where the service road gate is, correct?
Right.
Yes.
This is the gate right here.
Waste management's properties
Yep.
behind that. Okay.
Mhm.
I think what part of the confusion is if a person is going towards the island, they're all called Prado Drive, but if
Yeah.
you're going towards the island,
Mm-hmm.
you can go left or you can go right. If you go right, you stop at the stop sign. If you go left, you don't need to stop. If you're coming in the other way and making a slight right turn, there is no stop sign there.
Right.
So theoretically, you could have two cars coming on the curvature part and thinking that's all one lane. It's not marked. There's two separate lanes there. There's no center line marking or any designation at that. That's the thing
That
that's
is
confusing,
goofy.
I would think.
Mm-hmm.
There's a yield sign there, but that does not help with the person that's turning right and the one that's turning left coming this way.
This is very similar to the Aviano Island.
Yes.
the residents there figured it out without our help.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't put any signs up. The few residents that live near here, I think they can figure it out.
Yeah. And to your point, it's pretty low usage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I walk by there all the time.
I
Very low
understand
usage.
Mr. Rue,
He's trying to do the right thing.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean, his intention, he's
Yeah.
standing up for his residents, but unless they have evidence, as you mentioned, of any safety concerns or accidents, I don't think we should go anywhere with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I may not be able to do that.
Bob, yeah,
I
my
tend to
comment,
think,
yeah,
I
my
tend to
comment,
think that the yield sign is a little confusing myself, as that's indicated in location C,
This one.
that one
hey,
right
hey,
there.
Dean,
Yeah,
if I could offer a suggestion as a layman, if
yeah.
it's important enough for Prado to want to have it, would they be willing to fund it? And if it's important enough for them to fund it, then the question would be, would you agree? They're the kind of questions, but I don't think it's a community-wide issue. I agree with Ted.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly there could be a case made. I think it's a pretty weak argument that it's a hazardous condition here. I could imagine a replacing the yield sign with a diamond, a yellow diamond sign that has an arrow that curves to the right, and one on the opposite end with an arrow that curves to the left. And it would certainly suggest to me anyway that the curved portion of this roadway is the dominant, the major roadway, and the two uh, short tangent legs are very minor uh, portions of the intersection. If signage is to be changed, we need to get an approval from the city to do that. And there is certainly a cost involved to do that. So um, if Prado is willing to fund the study, I suppose we could engage. We could propose that we engage with Florida Transportation Engineering for that purpose. Um, I don't think we're going to get much out of it myself, but we would certainly be willing to go through that process.
I'd like to add one more item to the conversation, and that is really jumping off on what we were talking about in terms of low usage. We did do a speed study back here, and
Mhm.
there was not a speeding problem, and it was low volume of cars. I can go back and pull that data if you'd like, but I do remember that. So that might just help with the argument of maybe this might not be the top priority.
Sure.
And Jennifer, if I'm recalling correctly, there was uh, there was also some concern at the time, maybe about a month ago, when some email traffic came up, that there were there were vendors that were maybe accustomed to using the service road for their private entrance and exit from Pelican Preserve. And since it's become not a service road, but more of emergency access, they have come out this direction, found out that they can't use that, and turned around, and then they're driving rather quickly uh, down Prado Drive,
Right.
back to Cypress Grove and Pelican Preserve to get out of the gate a little faster to make up lost time. Um,
Correct. Yes, you
was that
remember. Yes, and we were going to actually place the speed signs back there again just to see what it looks like now. The
right?
speed signs, I guess there was a miscommunication, but they were put on Prado, outside the Prado neighborhood. It wasn't even in Prado, much less at this particular location. When I went to try to get that corrected, it was right about the time we were starting to prepare for Ian. And
Yeah.
since I go through Castle and Weiser to do that, I just decided I'm putting that off for a little bit because they had, I thought, more important things to do at the time. So that's an outstanding issue. meaning to do that speed study there just to determine whether there really is a speeding problem
Mhm.
there, as a result of
Mhm.
vendors trying to make up lost time.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's still an outstanding issue or work item.
So, Laura, would we suggest to PPAC that they reach back to the president of this HOA, or is this something that we could handle at our level to seek if they're willing to fund a study that we could arrange such a study to be done?
That's a good question.
I think it would make more sense to approach them as your group first, because if they say no, then that's the end of the issue. And there's no sense in
You just have to
bringing.
designate one person. You can't have multiple. And then that person would have to report back to me or to PPAC.
Okay.
You
Yeah, well, I
guys just
can do
can't
that
talk
since I've
about it
already-
outside. So
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go back and just basically say we've discussed it. I'm writing like what I think I should respond back with. We understand the issue. It's very similar to what we had in Aviano, where the residents, quite frankly, were able to figure it out. We recognize that it could be an issue, but it doesn't seem to be a big problem. We don't see, we haven't seen any potential accidents, or no one's reported a potential accident. In the past, we haven't seen a speeding issue there, but we're going to redo a study just to make sure. And so at this time, we're not going to go forward with this. If they're still interested and they can fund it, then we can have further discussions.
sure.
Okay. I'll write
Perfect.
something like that up.
Perfect.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Sure. Now, can I send it to you, Laura, so we can get it into the minutes so everyone can see it?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, send it to Georgia because she
Georgia.
coordinates all that. Yeah,
Okay,
you can
sure.
you copy me on it, please, but send it to her
Okay,
because
sure.
I would just send it to her anyway. So.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. All right, and then I'll get that back over to Richard and we'll see what he says.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, item B, Fort Myers Police Department traffic patrols. Dawn, can you verbally update us on anything that's been going on in the past month, what you anticipate in the coming months, et cetera?
Okay, just to go over what I think I sent out to everybody through Georgia on the numbers. The total from January 1 through September 16th, we scheduled 25 days of enforcement, which are 4-hour periods. They totally worked 9 days out of the 25, so very little participation. As far as what they did, several days they didn't do anything. They issued a total of 1 speeding ticket, no warnings, 6 stop sign tickets and 20 warnings, 3 other tickets and 2 warnings, which could be license violations, headlight or whatever. Total of vehicles stopped were 29 and 4 golf carts were stopped. So a couple of the golf carts got citations for stop sign violations, and that's pretty well where it is. The question is, do we want to continue for this coming year? Number 2, if we do continue, it needs to be looked at more as, I think, a safety security patrol or presence rather than an enforcement presence, because we just really don't see the Fort Myers PD too active in the enforcement realm of things.
It's been my experience that when you request them to come into patrol, you can't say we want you to issue tickets. It's
No,
at the
law
officer's
enforcement
discretion.
cannot be
so.
told what to
Right.
do. They can, I do suggest to them, being prior law enforcement myself,
Mhm.
What we would like to see done
Sure.
in the community. And that has been quite regularly done.
So if we're talking about safety and security, is it essentially their presence on the property increases safety and security? Is that what we're talking about, being visible?
I think so. Visibility is I think the word that I would use more than anything else,
Yeah.
because They normally just sit 2 or 3 spots. They really don't patrol, which I've asked them to do throughout the whole community. They seem to want to sit at a couple locations. But, still a visibility thing. And there are a lot of positives to visibility.
I think it's also a deterrent in terms of the speeding. Maybe people aren't getting tickets, but people do talk about the fact that they're there.
And that's part of the
And
visibility.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So even if they can't or they won't or whatever, their tickets are not being given out. There is discussion about, oh, be careful, you don't want to get a ticket.
Mhm.
I don't
Like
disagree
at
with
the
that.
pickleball
Yeah,
courts
yeah.
and what have you.
I agree.
Randy Bottleson, PPAC member. Don, I wanted to ask you if you have any information about how frequently a police officer comes through our community. And the reason I ask is that Bob Geppert did some volunteer work at the security gate. And during his shift, 9 police officers came through. They finally, I think he finally said, yeah, why don't you tell the story?
I started at 6 a.m. and between 6 and 8:30, we had 13 police officers come through the gate. 12 were City of Fort Myers and 1 was state police. And there was 2 officers in every car. And we asked them what they were coming, welcomed them, thanked them for their service, all that. But they were basically just driving through communities to see what was going on. So quite a few of them just, oh, there was 5 other ones here. And they turned around and left. But it was very impressive, the number that came through the community. That was unbelievable.
I think that's uncommon for over a whole time period of a year. I think because
Absolutely.
of the hurricane, I think it was probably elevated. But
Totally
generally-
hurricane related. Yep.
Generally speaking, I would say maybe 1 or 2 every 2 or 3 days coming through. I know we do have one Fort Myers officer that has a relative living in the community, and there may be more. But so, 3 or 4 times a week, maybe coming in, 5, something like that. But they just drive to where they're going and then they leave. I've not seen any active, quote, patrolling on normal duty hours. In fact, when I spoke to Fort Myers PD, because I usually speak to the officers when I see them, and it's more of a, well, we just are so busy, we're so understaffed, we cannot come into the communities on a regular basis. That's
And if we did engage with Fort Myers Police for the next year, and we called it safety and security, visibility, they still, if they saw violations, if they saw a need for, intervention of reckless driving or whatever, they're obligated to deal with that, are they not?
Yes, I think I would probably leave the terminology in what I send to Fort Myers PD as is, and
Yeah.
just anticipate it's going to be more of a safety and security patrol than actual coming in to do something. Because if we leave that part out, you definitely would not see any citations issued.
Okay. Any other input from others? So the upshot is to continue going forward with Fort Myers Police, change the focus to one of more of safety, security, and continue pretty much as is, about $10,000 budget a year, or is that, are we running out of that budget each year? We
No,
expending it?
no, I don't get the financials, but just by figuring the hourly rate of about $58 an hour per officer
Yeah.
and vehicle,
Yeah.
that's what it was this last year, I believe. We just don't have enough, not enough hours used to eat up the $10,000. And I think our expectations ought to be just safety and security is what we're going to get, and anything above and beyond that was a plus. because we do have some speeders and stop sign violators, quite, that flagrantly violate, but it's not drastic. It's not bad, but we do have some of that. So I think it's well worth to keep that focus.
Okay. We can discuss our observations at the next PPAC meeting. Laura, this is very awkward.
Sorry.
Observation.
Such in-laws.
Observation. It seems like an odd terminology, but okay. We can talk about it at PPAC. Thank you. Review security gate operations during the hurricane and incident reports. What we're looking at right here is just one incident report that came up shortly after the last safety security meeting. And I was going to circulate it, and it was suggested that we just hold them and circulate them at this meeting. So this is the only one that we had seen. And in this case, it was an issue where a gate behind the tennis courts had been left unlocked and needed to be secured. In other times, there would be reports of, someone being called into the community to deal with something at private residence or any number of things, people getting lost. But these are the kinds of incident reports that would come out on a fairly regular basis previously with Securitas, and now we should be seeing them from Wiser. I know that it's been suggested that Wiser communicate with us. I'm not seeing any direct communication at this point. I'm not sure whether anyone else is, or if it's still going strictly between Wiser and Castle Group.
Dean, I just wanted to let you know that I am going to be requesting that I be copied on all emails between Wiser and Castle.
Good, thank you. And could we get copies of that as well, or will we have to wait?
I can share them with you at your meetings if you'd like. I can put them together as part of a report when you meet and put a summary together of the ones that happen. Oh, unless you'd like me to forward them off during, but you guys can't talk about them, so that makes it a little awkward.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm more than happy to compile any of the ones that I get together, and I can prepare just a report for your meeting.
I don't think there's a report so much as just a compilation would be helpful, so that the committee would be able to be on top of what is happening with the gate, with Wiser, et cetera. But not a formal report.
I'm doing it in anticipation of the change in regime too, and with the different managers coming in. So I want to make sure that we don't lose, the district doesn't, since it's our asset at the gate there and it's our assets inside of Pelican. I want to make sure on behalf of the district that we're kept in the loop with what's going on.
Good. Yep. Excellent. Thank you. As far as the gate operations during the hurricane, I was hoping that somebody from Castle would be able to speak, but if not, then perhaps Bob Geppert, you'd be able to speak to at least what you observed.
Yeah, my observation, Bob Geppert again from Monticello. I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't see anybody from Castle the whole time we were there. They were off-site also. So it was run by the residents, and it was run by the Pelican Preserve Community Association, PPERT group, or Residents Alliance PPERT group. I'm not sure where they fall, but anyway, the PPERT group. And the gentleman by the name of Dale, and a lot of letters in his last name, I don't remember it, but Dale ran it, and he did an excellent job. Everyone was scheduled. There were 2 people scheduled right around the clock, all 24 hours. Supplies were there. We had water, we had flashlights, we had safety vests, we had emergency cones. They did it all. Whatever was possibly needed. We had sheets where you sign people in and out. They did a great job. So kudos to that particular group. And it worked very, very well. The Wiser people showed up, I think Friday morning, might have been Saturday, I remember, but anyway, I had 2 days there. And he came, the lieutenant or chief or whatever he is, came with his wife, and they manned it. Now, he could not get enough people to do some later afternoon shifts, so the people came back. But for the next day, I wasn't needed because by then Weiser had enough people to run it, and it ran fine. So great plan, perfectly implemented, and we had a good time.
The
Any other questions?
emergency power, I know that that was an issue and that there is a generator proposed, and so we've been, I've been here for 10 years without a generator there, but we're getting a generator. Was emergency power brought in somehow?
No, we had flashlights,
Yep.
but as you alluded to it, there is going to be an emergency natural gas generator emergency installed to supplement and operate all of the electrical functions of that gatehouse the next time we're down. We went in and secured everything and we had some help from the gateway people, wrapped all the computer equipment up in bags, in plastic bags to make sure that if we did get water intrusion, the electrical equipment would be safe. That never occurred, but thank God to that. We could not secure one of the doors to the gatehouse. It was off track. And so again, Dale and his PERT team came over and Jimmy rigged or jury rigged, whatever the word is, a wooden bar between the door and the rest of the building so the door would not open at the height of the storm. So, again, everything worked perfectly. But in the future, we will have air, we will have power, and we'll be able to use the bathroom once we get our natural gas generator in place. And that is coming. I'll get an update at the more recent PPAC meeting. But the money's been approved, at least some of it. So we'll get to the rest of it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Randy Bottleson with PPAC.
You can't be here as people. Are you liaison for PPAC? Otherwise, you have to be a resident.
Liaison.
Okay.
Oh, I'm a PPAC member.
Yeah, you're the liaison.
A liaison to
Yeah.
the group.
Yep.
Sure. Okay. So the status on that generator was such that we were going to have about an 8 to 10 week lead time originally. And it was later pushed back because the gas company then moved that to 3 to 4 months, I believe,
And
from Laura's.
I'm still waiting on a response from the lady at the gas company because we found the possibility that there is a gas line already very close to the guardhouse. And I reached out to her again. It was either yesterday afternoon or this morning, and I'm still waiting to hear back from her, but I will make sure that I get in touch with her before the PPAC meeting on Thursday. So right now I'm waiting on the gas company because I'm trying to be fiscally responsible with your funds. And if we don't have to pay it was like 38, almost $3,900 to have the line run the entire way, and we can just tap into what's there. If that actually is there, I would rather spend less. And so I'm just waiting on her.
Okay. And having said that, we got this approved in July with the intention of trying to move it through and get it done prior to the end of our fiscal budget, which is actually in O&M, on the O&M agreement. So some deposits have been made and some monies have been allocated, and the rest now will have to come from emergency funds as we kind of continue to fall over.
Anything that was allocated in fiscal 22, if we haven't spent it yet, I will push forward into fiscal
Okay.
23. So you won't have to move money from somewhere else to cover it because we always run into problems where projects are started in one fiscal year and aren't able to finish them. And I have a way that I can keep track of what's left of the money from the previous fiscal year and carry that forward into the next one. So that was my goal for this week, is to get through all of the open purchase orders and have that wrapped up.
So then the next one would also be that the lighting on the intersection of Cypress Grove and Pelican Preserve. Now I expect that will probably be low priority as we try to recover with all the street lights that were damaged or put out. But once again, it was ordered in time to try to get it in beforehand. It was like a June approval, I think, on that one, but we're kind of fighting. We're up against these lead times, and we're just kind of continuing to try to push them forward.
Laura, I think it is very definite that there is a natural gas line that comes in from tree line along the southern side of the walkway into Pelican Preserve,
We
and
did,
extends at least as far down as Bellagio, may go further than that.
we got some plans from Tetra Tech, and
Yeah,
I shared those with Erica, who is my contact at Tico, the gas
yep,
company, and I'm just waiting for her to get back to me. So
good.
as I reached out again, it was either yesterday afternoon or this morning. My days are all blurring together, but I'll make sure that I'll call her if she doesn't get back to me by the end of the day tomorrow.
Great. Good. Thank you. Okay. Any further comment on item C? Okay. Speed monitoring update. Jennifer, you actually started um, a little while ago when you talked about the Prado speed monitoring. Can you update with what the plan might be in the next month and a half or so?
Yes, certainly. I have really two things to talk about here. One is completing all the reporting that we were going to talk about last time, where we had open issues with Castle and with Traffic Solutions. Just like the Prado issue that got pushed off because just as we were starting to work on it.
They can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start over. Is that better?
Better. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I really do have to talk closely to the mic, maybe because I'm wearing a mask, so I apologize. Thanks for letting me know.
Sure.
Yeah, two things here. First of all, leveraging off what I said earlier about the Prado change, where the traffic sign went up in the wrong place. Just about that time, I also was going to try to complete the work on the traffic reporting of the studies that we've already conducted. As you may
Okay.
recall, we were having problems getting data out of the system. And normally I went through Castle and then to Traffic Solutions to get assistance. Well, the hurricane kind of put a kibosh on that again. I just made a decision. There are other more important things. So that is an open issue that's been put on the side until probably a few weeks from now. I don't know. I'm not quite sure exactly how much longer the cleanup will be and Castle's involvement will be there. The second thing is really more along the lines of what you were asking for, and that was what's our future plans? The schedule that we had completed earlier in the year really is winding down. And normally at this point, what we would be doing is talking about future traffic studies. In this new world, I think the way we should approach it, and everyone can tell me whether this is a good idea or not, or going along with the proper procedure, is maybe what we can do is have that as a discussion for next month's meeting. If people could bring in what they think we need to do for the second half of the year, actually maybe the last quarter of the year at this point, we can get all that stuff scheduled out. Things to consider would be the results of previous studies and areas where we said that we might want to go back and take another look, making sure that we either still didn't have a problem. Maybe there was an area where it looked like it was a problem, but not too bad. And we would do a future study on it, or even other areas within the community, such as the Prado one, where a resident said that they were having problems near the emergency entrance. If there are any other areas that we might want to take a look at. So would it make sense to bring those things to the next meeting and then?
You'll be making your observations of areas that you think need to be monitored. You can put them together and we can take it to PPAC and they can say, yes, this looks great.
Okay.
And you can go on with your studies.
Okay, so would that discussion happen at the next meeting, or is that something that can be done via email ahead of time?
I think if you wanted to send your items to Georgia of your areas that you want to discuss, she can compile the list and then we can have that for you at the next meeting when you meet.
Yes.
And that way you'll all have a chance to look at them a week ahead of time. And then
Okay.
you'll have some time to think about it. And then when you come together for your meeting, you'll be able to review them and discuss them.
I like that one better because it uses time a little bit better. Okay, is that okay with everybody to do it that way? Okay.
But my question, if with that approach, And I think it's a good approach, Jennifer. But with that approach, we will have a discussion at some point in the future, and then we have to make our observations known to PPAC, and to
Right.
get on their agenda for their meetings, we need to plan that as well. Am I right, Laura?
Yes, and if somebody from there can't be at, I am at all the PPAC meetings. So if for
Yep.
some reason the timing falls where someone can't be there, I'm more than happy to bring forward items on your behalf.
Oh,
It's
okay,
only
thank you.
if someone from the committee can do it,
Sure.
but if you can't, then I can.
I
Given
see.
when we have, oh, I'm sorry. When we
Nope,
have,
good.
when they have meetings, using the methodology we were just talking about where Georgia will get everything, compile it, we'll discuss it, make our observations and go in and give those to PPAC. How often does PPAC have their meetings?
They meet the
And
second Thursday of every month.
second Thursday, okay. So it would be optimal if we
We
could
would
meet
have
right
to have,
before
their
that.
agenda gets published the first Thursday, so everything gets published a week ahead of time. So their agenda would be published the first Thursday of each month. If you know that you have a topic that you would like to have discussed, even if for some reason you can't get them the materials, at least get the information to Georgia so she can get the topic on the agenda.
That's what I'm getting at. Yes. Okay.
So we
first
could
there's
probably, if we do it this way, we'd probably be up for January, up and running.
Yeah, so we lose
Because that
about a
gives us 2
quarter.
months to get it through PPAC, and probably in January then start the new speed surveys.
That's what it sounds like. Okay. All right. Well, then I think we all have an action item. If you have any ideas or suggestions, get them to Georgia, and then we'll get
Yep.
them on the agenda.
I would say to get that, so you would make it for the November 10th agenda, because they meet Thursday, so it's too close. So you would be able to get it on the November 10th PPAC agenda. If you want to get that to Georgia, just let her know that you're going to have an item on there.
Okay.
And then she has a form that you guys can fill out, which you did, I'm assuming, for these as well, to put everything together. But at least she can set a placeholder for it on the agenda, and then
Okay.
you can get her the information.
Okay. I will do that.
We'll all get better at this. It's all new, so
yeah,
we're all learning.
Yeah, my hesitation there was not anything other than I have to think through this and kind of get the
Sure.
cadence
I'm just
going.
trying to make it easier for you guys to not have to hold it up, to try to keep it
Yes.
fluent so that we don't miss a whole month by you guys bringing it here and then talking about it. If she can get it
Oh,
ahead of time, and
absolutely.
then you got a week to look at it before you meet, that gives you guys time to think about it. Then when you get together, I think your discussion will be more productive.
Absolutely.
Not that you don't have productive conversations, but I'm just saying it gives you a little more time to think
I
about it.
understand.
So.
I understand. Okay, cool. Thanks.
I do have one question under item B, going back to that. As far as the notifications to Fort Myers PD, I usually do that by email. And in the future, I should send the email to Fort Myers PD and Georgia. Will that be the procedure, or will Georgia send the email to Fort Myers PD?
No, it comes from your group. So you would continue to do it, but you should actually copy Georgia and
Yes.
myself.
You just can't copy the rest of us, Don.
Yeah, you can copy as many staff members as you'd like. It doesn't matter, but you
Yeah,
can't.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
the committee members. You can't
Yes.
copy the committee
Yeah.
members.
So please send it to Georgia and to me.
Yeah.
But you can't send it to Georgia to distribute to them.
Yes, or
Yes.
me. You can send things to either Georgia or myself, and we can distribute them to the group. But you can't email each other.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So if there's something that's really important for some reason, can't wait for your meeting, and it needs to get out to the group, Georgia and I, or actually any staff member, can send things out to the group. We try not to do that, but if we have to, we can.
Okay, thank you. Work group updates. I'm not sure what the work group updates would be, but I would put in there, perhaps, we are now a subcommittee of the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee as a result of a meeting that was held, I believe, last week.
Correct.
And that subcommittee has some responsibilities, which I don't believe we've actually been shared what those responsibilities are. I don't think there's anything surprising, but the purpose of the subcommittee was established, and we should get a chance to take a look at that. So if Laura or Georgia could distribute that to us, that would be helpful.
Sure, we can do that. And actually, it's a little tricky right now because the subcommittee itself exists. You as members of the subcommittee need to be appointed by PPAC, which is why those applications were sent out to you. So I have everyone but Jennifer's. I know you're working on it.
Yep.
So they will be going to PPAC at their meeting on 11/10 for PPAC's approval of the members of the subcommittee. So the subcommittee exists formally,
But the
the
members do
members
not.
don't formally exist. So I know you guys are still operating, and that's cool. But we just need to take the recommendations, the applications to PPAC at their meeting on the 10th, which would mean that I would need yours no later than the 2nd.
Oh, I can get to
So-
you next day or two.
Okay, I
have
just get
a
to send it
couple
over to
simple
Georgia or drop it off at the office, and she'll take care of it. I have everybody else's here. So that's what'll happen. So that'll go to PPAC, and they'll say, yep, we want those people to be on the safety and security subcommittee, and then you guys formally exist as members of the
And
subcommittee.
Dean, if I can ad lib again, this is Bob. The motion
Please.
that was passed by the board says, and I will read it. The scope and the focus of the Safety and Security Subcommittee shall principally consist of the following. A, assisting district staff in the preparation of specifications for bidding safety and security related contracts. B, assisting in the formulation and review of the post orders. C, assisting district staff in evaluating the application of applicable Florida traffic and safety standards. D, reviewing and making recommendations as to the district to engage outside traffic control assistance as required to maintain speed controls within the community, which of course we're already doing. That's what Bob does. And E, monitoring and suggesting improvements to the community regarding safety and security issues. Now that's the minimum mandate. And as Laura just said, we're trying to roll this thing out slowly to get all the P's and Q's all lined up properly. But that will be the mission of the Safety and Security Work Group. To that end, you will have a budget. There will be monies allocated to you, some of which we're locked into, like the Securitas or Wiser contract. But there will also be money for you to take, I'll call it pet projects or your own initiative items. And there will be money and line items allocated, and Laura will eventually mature all this. And you guys will need to have someone in your committee kind of follow it. So in the future, there will be a financial report. This is probably January, but that's where you're going. If you know at all how the ponds work group functions for the last 11 years, just picture that structure. And that's what we're going to be doing with safety and security.
So basically,
Thank you, Bob.
it's a placeholder because it's coming.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I was going to add the applications for membership. So thank you, Laura, for speaking about it as well.
I do have one more update. Keith is mainly here too as our public works director. There's going to be staff liaisons for each committee and subcommittee. And while I will remain the liaison for Pelican Preserve, this is more Keith's wheelhouse as the public works director than it is mine. I approach more from a project management financial standpoint. I will still be involved, but I will most likely not be attending all of your monthly meetings. It will be Keith, but I will be available if there's a specific thing on the agenda, or I can even dial in if I need to speak or anything like that. So I'm not removing myself completely from your work group or your subcommittee. I am just not going to be attending all of the monthly meetings going forward. So that was why he was here. So it'll probably be, I probably will like next month, and then maybe by December I'll completely transition off. So.
And Keith's last name?
Riddle. Yeah, he doesn't look like a deer in headlights like I do when you guys start talking about street lines and road markings, because that's what he knows, and it's kind of like, okay. So much more helpful than I will be. A much better resource.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, member items and report. Report on the PPAC meeting. I attended the PPAC meeting on September 22nd, and I presented a discussion about the roundabout operations and conceptual recommendations to the PPAC that we had observed at our prior meeting. This is the report that Florida Transportation Engineering had prepared on our behalf, and the conceptual improvements, modifications to the roundabout, essentially pavement markings and a few signs to try to clarify how the roundabout should operate, could operate more safely than it does at the present time. I had requested approval of funding for this improvement, and the board voted a not to exceed amount of $25,000 for us to go forward with this modification. Subsequent to the meeting, I raised a question about a modification on Cassell Way, which I had heard from several months ago was suggested, and that was for a brick paver area in the entryway, in the pavement itself. And I wasn't sure the status of that, but it was my impression that if it was approved, that it would make sense to try to combine the pavement marking project, sign and pavement marking project with the pavers in Cassell Way. So I think this is in the hands of Castle Group. I think that Scott had been working with a vendor on getting the brick pavers implemented on Cassell Way, but I don't know. So I was hopeful that we would hear from Scott today, and maybe Laurie, you might have some information on that as well.
I do. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the Casella paver has now been turned over to the district. The contract is with, I believe, Timo Brothers is the name of the company.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that work is gonna go forward. I don't recommend connecting it to the striping of the roundabout. They're two separate scopes completely. So.
Okay. And but it's going to go ahead before the roundabout modifications, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, great. So back on, so we have a $25,000 not to exceed amount for the modifications to the roundabout at Prado and Cypress Grove, including the crosswalk on Cypress Grove. I was going to contact Florida Transportation Engineers to discuss taking their concept and moving it forward through a permitting process with the city. Does that seem like the approach that that we should take, or how would we proceed to get the project bid? In the past, Castle would have gone to a vendor, that does pavement markings for them on property, and not actually gone out to a public bid process.
Moving to a public bid for something that small.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for something. I don't know the exact scope of the roundabout project. I'm on my 5th week here, so forgive me for catching up on some things.
Sure.
But depending on the cost of the project, if it's a minimal amount of work, I wouldn't go out to public bid for it.
We would just request several quotes.
Request a minimum of 3 quotes from some vendors that do that type of work.
Correct.
Yeah. And then as far as the permit, you would need permits from the city for that work as well.
And normally the vendors would take care of that.
You're right.
That's part of their cost.
That would come after your solicitation process or your requesting quote process.
My experience with dealing with the city on another project in Pelican Preserve, was that the cities needed to approve the permit before, before anything happened, and the permit needed to be signed by a licensed professional engineer. The contractor typically does not have a licensed engineer on staff to pick up the permit, and that has caused some. Is it appropriate to say bumps in the road?
That's putting it politely, yes.
That is
that has caused some problems.
The process would be, if you're going to utilize FTE for your design, then they would have a design plan or plan sheet or a design scope. That would be taken, that would be signed and sealed, and that would be taken to the city to apply for the permit. And
Right.
FTE would need to be a registered licensed professional engineer with the city.
Yep.
Typically, that's the process.
Yep. Okay.
We ran into a hiccup last time where there was a project that was done. Instead of having one contractor do all of the work, several small contractors did the work. So no one went to pick up the permit, and it's still sitting there, and the city won't sign off because the permit wasn't picked up. And no GC will touch it now because they didn't do the work. It was a castle thing.
Yeah, we want to avoid that
Can I ask a
going
question?
forward.
Would you go through that one more time? So something was done that wasn't legal.
I didn't say it wasn't legal.
Okay, then that's why I'm asking you to
I'm just
explain it to
saying
me.
that there is a permit that was on, there's a permit on file at the city of Fort Myers that needs a general contractor to come and pick it up so that the permit can be closed out for some work that was done inside of Pelican.
Okay, but
And
because
right
it,
now we can't get a general contractor. There's no general contractor that was willing to go and get it because the work is already done and it was done by other contractors that are
okay,
not
so
general contractors.
the work is done, but we didn't have the authority to do it?
No,
What
pick
do
up
you
the
need to pick up
permit.
the permit? We don't have a permit.
We have a pending permit. It's not technically closed, but it's not open. It expired. So it just needs to be reactivated and a general contractor needs to pick it up.
So work
The
was done
the work was
improperly,
parsed out to several vendors instead of having a general contractor do it. That's my
but I'm trying to
understanding.
get
I
you to
could be
say that
completely
it
wrong.
shouldn't have been done right,
I believe the process was not properly followed.
which means what? It's not a legal
It's
installation?
not illegal. The
Not
work is-
illegal?
No, I didn't say that.
That's what
Yeah, that's not what I said.
I want you to tell me how it got done if it wasn't done legally.
Somebody just did the work and without pulling the permit, without going to pick up the permit, I should say. The permit was ready and it was never picked up for the work.
That's a lot of words. Is it legal as it stands?
I'm not a lawyer and I don't know this part of the process very well, so I can't say either way.
Okay, I guess I would like to understand that for the benefit of the group. And here's where I'm going. If it's not legal in the way that it was installed, shouldn't it be removed?
I wouldn't say that it's not legal. It's just the permit needs to be picked up. So it can be signed off on by the city. They would be the ones to decide if it was properly installed or not. That's the point of the inspection, to close out the permit.
But since the permit wasn't pulled, they're not
The
coming out
permit
to
is
inspect.
pulled, it was never picked up.
Okay, never picked up. So why hasn't the city come out to look at it then?
Because the permit was never picked up, so they don't know the job's done.
You know, this is a dog chasing its tail.
I know. I've been dealing with
Okay.
this circle for a year now.
So if somebody went out there tonight and removed them, somebody just removed them, is that in violation? I'm not suggesting we do that, but I'm trying to understand how we are in the situation that we're in.
The project was not handled through the district. It was handled by someone else.
Who?
It was Castle. They coordinated it.
What is the project?
Randy Bottleson. I had some discussions with Steve Agapi at Tetra Tech regarding this particular situation, because I was concerned we didn't pay for the permit.
Oh, no.
And he assured me that the plan was put in
Yep.
and it was paid for.
Yep.
Scott Charnock employed a contractor of his choosing.
Who was not a general contractor.
Was not a general contractor, but anyway, so this person did not pull the permit. It subsequently expired. Work was done, and it was so the permit was never closed. So that's the status that we have currently with the rumble strips on Benito. Now, we've had discussions with that neighborhood to try to come to some resolution that would satisfy the multitude of complaints we get from people regarding those. And the city says that we're required to get a 2/3 approval by letter from that community. So 20 out of the 30 homes. And we didn't get really any support for the proposal that was brought up by the committee before to shorten that rumble strip by 4 feet to allow unimpeded flow with bicycles and golf carts. So we are just kind of at an impasse. Now, I would bring to PPAC and a suggestion or perhaps a motion to have Florida engineers take a look at that again, if I had an idea of what the cost might be and if it was a moderate cost, because this is a really sore subject. And that's kind of where we stand with that right now. We'd like to get it resolved, but we're not really in control, honestly, about that.
I do have a question on that. Now, you mentioned shorten the rumble strips by 4 feet.
Yeah, he's incorrect there. It's not by 4 feet. It was to be 4 feet away from the gutter.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Which is probably only
Yeah.
2 foot.
So
So,
semantics, they were not installed according to the plan to begin with.
Right.
And subsequently, somebody came out and did it again. So I don't know what the thing is. They don't meet this. I'm not sure they meet the specs. But the point being, we wanted to try to see if we could get some kind of a compromise there.
Right.
But some of the suggested ones by the transportation engineer from the city could cost 20,000 to 40,000.
Those were for speed humps.
Yeah, so
installation of speed humps in the travelway. That was not for extending the existing rumble strips to the other side of the street or any other similar type of modification. Those were more extensive interventions in the roadway itself.
rumble strips would never get, I shouldn't say that. The rumble strips would be hard to get approval for because there's just really strong feelings both ways on that. But yeah,
So to try to move that matter forward, I had suggested at the last PPAC meeting that we engage Florida Transportation to bring in a fresh set of eyes and look at the Veneto intersection with Vicenza and suggest ways to address speed concerns on Veneto as it approached Vicenza, be it modifications to the existing rumble strips, be it extending the existing rumble strips to the other side, possibly placing flexible stanchions along the double yellow center line to try to keep motorists within their lane and not veer across the double yellow line, or something else that in their professional experience they might suggest. Randy did speak to the lack of support for the current rumble strips and modifications to the rumble strips by the neighborhood. And when we try to get some support for something else, they couldn't come to any level of agreement. So the project has basically stalled. And at the present time, nothing is being done. We did remove the temporary orange traffic cones a month ago because they were not part of the original permit that was not picked up. They were not part of the permit drawing, so we pulled those out to try to stop some of the criticisms that was coming to the Safety Security Work Group, towards PPAC, and towards the community association. A lot of people have a lot of opinions as to, whether or not um, traveling at 15 miles an hour is appropriate or not along Veneto Drive. But engaging Florida Transportation was not supported at the PPAC meeting. Um, it, Randy, you just suggested you could bring a motion forward to PPAC that we engage with them with a reasonable anticipated expenditure to look at different options. Perhaps this is where we need to go, is to get them on board and give us a price for a concept design for their professional opinions.
I, Randy Bottleson. Dean, I think a case could be made for the quality of the information that Florida engineering, transportation engineers provided for that roundabout.
Yeah,
Once it was secured, I had that sent by Georgia to all the members of PPAC so that they had adequate time to review all that, look at
yeah,
it, review it and study it. So I, I believe a case can be made to employ them if
yeah,
we got, say, maybe $2,500. But if
yeah.
it's going to be a $5,000 study or $10,000 study, that would be hard to get support for, in my opinion. So I think what it needs to be done is to get some indication from them what they would what they could do for $2,500, or what they feel it might cost to give some. Having remembering now that the rumble strips that are um, the rumble strips are on both CDD property and community association property. So the city doesn't have any control over that community association. And if it was chosen to have those removed, I don't think there would be any pushback from the city. But that also adds another element to this discussion, because I suspect the community association is going to want to weigh in on that decision as well.
I have a question, just because I think it was either like right about the time I started here or shortly before I started here. I know Tetra Tech was the one that submitted the plans for the rumble strips themselves. Do you know, did they do any type, I'm not prepared to, I could look this up myself, I'm sure, but are you aware, did they do any type of study at that intersection? Because if there's something that already exists, it may be worth revisiting what they had done before, just to save you guys some money and to look at
Yeah,
that if
no,
they had done some kind of a study.
yeah, no, they did not do any study whatsoever out
They
there.
just did the
They
plan for the rumble strips?
Correct. Yeah, they
Okay,
did several other small projects at the same time, but
okay.
they did not do any studies out there, Laura.
Okay, I was just curious because I thought if there was something,
Sure.
instead of spending more money to have another one done, you could just use that. So,
Yep.
okay,
Fair
thank you.
enough. Yeah.
Who's going to get a not to exceed price from Florida Transportation Engineering?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Mr. Geppert asked who is going to get the not to exceed price from Florida Transportation Engineering. If you're, I guess I'll lean on Randy. If you could send me what the specifications you're looking for the study, I could have our Randy reach out. He's our contracts manager, and he could see if that's something that's feasible or not, I guess. But we would need specs in order to ask for quotes. So you'd have to be very specific in what you're looking for them to do for you.
We're looking for a recommendation.
So
We don't have a spec. We don't know.
no, but I'm just saying, if you could see, you have an intersection that currently has rumble strips. You want to know, like, are you looking to calm speeding? Are you looking for, what are you trying to accomplish? That would be the specs.
People can safely exit from Vincennes.
It's a scope of work,
Right.
really, not a spec. Scope of
Sorry,
work
scope, yes.
to direct an engineer to provide a quote
We
on.
need
What-
something more than that, Keith. We want to be able to ensure that the residents of Vicenza community can exit onto
You,
Benito
you have a
Drive.
problem, which is
Yeah.
that the residents of the community feel that they're not safely able to exit their community. So you're looking for recommendations for a way to handle that so that they can
That's
safely
it.
exit.
I mean, it's
That's the scope.
not rocket science.
Nope, that's the
They just
scope.
want, okay, if that's the scope, now you got what you need. Can you guys reach out and get us a,
We work with Randy.
Yeah.
We can, yes.
oh, we pinned it down.
And you would prefer, Laura, you would prefer that somebody from our group, like me, I've been in touch with them specifically about this over the past
If
6
you
or
have
9 months.
If you have a contact there, if you
Yeah.
could share that with me, please, and I'll have
Certainly.
our Randy reach out because
Sure.
he'll
Okay.
put a document together so that when we reach out for quotes, everybody gets the same exact information.
By all means, work together cooperatively and
Yeah.
collaboratively.
And we can talk as much
Absolutely.
as we want outside of a meeting. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I would like to meet somebody out there so I can understand exactly.
can meet you anytime you want.
Okay.
they're like little in the road when you're in a car. Not a big deal.
I know, we'll just wear it and get my eyes
Sure.
on it. Yep.
I had asked him if he'd been out there yet, and he said no. So
Okay. That's all I had under item 9. Does anybody else have any comments? Randy, any comments from you?
I'm sorry, I'm here. I'm not going to come anymore. Not on item 9 specifically, Dean, but I failed to mention when we talked about Hurricane Ian, is that his name?
Yes.
Okay. The great job that your group did in assessing sign damage, light pole damage, and all that stuff. You took a lot of great pictures. For the record, that was an attaboy job. And we really, at least I appreciate it as a board member.
oh, absolutely from staff standpoint too, because it gets extra eyes out there for us. And I mean, you guys are out there. And so I did drive around in Pelican 2 days after Ian. I was out there that Friday driving around and I saw a lot of the same damage that was reported, which was great. I didn't have time to stop and take pictures, but I did see a lot of it. But this makes it very easy for us to compile and make a list and keep tabs on. And for your awareness, I did request the list of property damage and who they're working with and where they're at with it from Castle. Scott Charnett told me that I believe Chris was working on it and he would get it to me. So from a district standpoint, we'll have eyes, whatever Castle is working on our assets to get them repaired as well.
Thank you. Chris emailed me also just before this meeting to say that he apologized that he couldn't make the meeting. He had another conflict, but he appreciated all of the work that members of the group had done. And he's cross-referencing that data with their record. So it was a good team effort. Okay. We should set another meeting, the next meeting.
You have to set your date and an agenda. Do you think that as far as agenda items, it sounds like you have some things that you report pretty much on a consistent monthly basis, like your speed monitoring. I think the last 2 meetings, there are reports on there. So if there's things that you want to make sure that you discuss at your next meeting, let's bring them up now so we can have them on the radar and Georgia can set placeholders for them for the next meeting. So I'm assuming the traffic, the speed studies, we're going to have that at the next meeting then, correct? So we can discuss those. So
Yes.
so the areas that you want to do that.
I'm sorry, areas that I want to.
Well, the places that you're going to put the speed monitoring.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my mind's going 100 miles an hour.
That's okay. That's okay.
Is there anything else as of today that you would like to discuss at your next meeting? I mean, you can always come up with topics afterwards, but if we can just kind of plug them in ahead of time.
Well, again, I think we will need to talk about Veneto and Vicenza again, whether it's a go or not with Florida Transportation.
Usually at this time of year, we would do some brainstorming on projects that we would want to take up for the following year. Is that still something we want to do at this point in time?
Sure.
Okay.
Your new budget year started October 1st, so.
Okay.
So we ought to be able to find out what sort of budget has been established for us to work within?
That would come from me. I'll get that to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
What I can do is I was keeping the list of projects that we were working this year. So maybe what we can do is go through that
Sure.
and use that as a starting point for next year.
Sure.
And I can
Yeah.
send that to Georgia to send out to the group.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
One thing that we've mentioned before at the last meeting particularly is the lighting coming into Pelican Preserve for aesthetics and for security around the guardhouse.
That's right.
One other thing I noticed, and I really didn't go back and check it out, but the fencing towards the back of Pelican Preserve, I think some of that has been knocked down by the trees that have fallen during the last hurricane.
I know along Tree Line, a lot of it was down. I drove down.
I was kind of surprised. I thought that was really still.
I think Scott said there may have been 70 panels that got damaged.
Oh my.
I would believe it. I was looking. It was a lot easier to tell when I had gone back. I think I was there 2 days post Ian, and then I was there again last Friday. So a week later, I could tell there was panels missing along Tree Line, but they still had the trees on them. And then by the time I had gone back a week later, the trees were gone, so it was very obvious. And some of them had been repaired already, but there were a lot of missing panels. Okay. I'll have Georgia put placeholders for these, but somebody from your group will need to be responsible for populating the information for those topics, but we'll at least get them on the radar. And I can have her send the list out, and then if you guys will have to figure out who's, I'm assuming you're gonna do the traffic things, so.
And Jennifer also has the list of projects.
Projects
Yeah.
and traffic, okay.
Yeah.
Who wants to take the Veneto and Vincenza? I'm guessing that would be probably Randy. That would be you. That would give an update. We would work with you to get you the information, or Dean. The Vincenza and Veneto.
Yeah.
We work.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll put that on Dean.
Okay.
Who's gonna take lighting at the Pelican Preserve entrance?
Well, we've raised the topic a few times, and we thought that it was something that was on the district's plate for improvements. I think through Castle, but maybe it is not really advanced very far.
Okay, I'll take that. Keith and I'll check into that. Staff will give an update.
Okay.
And then I guess the fencing at the back of Pelican, staff can take that too. We'll work with Castle to get an update on that. Or actually Castle can give an update if they're here. By the way, staff will work with Castle to make sure we have an update. So, and you are more than welcome to add other things to your agenda. I just want to make sure
Okay.
we set something. So then you'll need to set a date for your next meeting.
Yeah.
Are you going to try to be consistent and meet like always on the same, like the second Tuesday, third Wednesday, or are you just kind of doing it whenever you guys can all get together?
Well, the second Tuesday looks like
It'd be the 8th.
election day.
It is, yes.
So we might not want that one. Just a thought.
Could we go to the 15th? November 15th?
I won't be here from the 10th to the 19th of November.
You'd have three people here in the room to have a quorum. So it's your call. I'm not saying you can't have it, but if everyone else can make it and that's the date that works best, you still can have it. Because you just need to have 3 people in the building to have a quorum.
When's Dean coming back?
Dean, when are you coming back?
I'm going to be down there next week, but only until November 1st. And then I won't be back until the end of December.
Okay, so we can't have a meeting until all 3 of these members are available to.
Well, you're technically on the list as a member. There's 5.
No, Brand.
So you have
I
4?
thought it was just a liaison
Yeah, I thought that's what we said earlier.
We'll have to clarify that.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's
We'll
at the
need
present time, it's
to-
myself, Jennifer, Don, and Ted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What-
if it's
what-
easier
what
for you to
about
be the
10th?
liaison.
What about the 10th? We talked about Tuesdays or Thursday.
Well, the Pelican has their meeting here. They meet the second Thursday of each month, so you wouldn't be able to meet that day. You could do, nope, you can't do Wednesday either because Stony Brook is here. I'm looking at the boardroom calendar. So Stony
Does it-
Brook meets on Wednesday and Pelican Preserve meets the second Thursday. What about the 8th?
That's
That
election
was
day.
election day.
Never mind. My calendar has that on it. This one doesn't.
Is
It
the
could-
7th an option, Monday?
Is. Keith was just asking if it had to be in the afternoon or if it could be in the morning. I mean, I'm here from 8 to 4:30, so it's fine with me.
Morning's fine with me.
Because you could do it on that Wednesday or Thursday, then we would just have to make sure that we're out of here by 1:30. If you wanted to do the 9th or 10th,
Thursday the 10th in the morning?
I think you're gone then,
I
right?
can't do the
You would have
10th.
to do it the 9th.
I'm going the 10th.
We can
or
do the
19th.
7th as well. I was just, try to be more
7th is
flexible.
fine.
7th is fine.
The 7th is open all day. The 8th is open during normal working hours. The 9th, well, again, that's election day, but the 9th is open until 1:30 here. The 10th is PPAC, so till 1:30. And then we're closed on the 11th.
Why don't we just shoot for the 7th then? If that's,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
let's
time?
do the 7th, and morning or afternoon as far as I'm concerned.
I said, I'm here 8 to 4:30, so doesn't matter to
What day of
me.
the week is that?
Monday.
Monday.
It's a
Monday.
Monday.
Monday?
Do you want to hold your 2:30 time?
that's good.
Okay.
2:30, okay. 11/7, okay.
Monday the 7th at 2:30?
Which means that all of your agenda items need to be to Georgia. We have to publish the agenda on the 31st. So if you could get them, it would be best if we could get them by that Friday before the 28th, or if you send them over the weekend. So she has them when she gets here on Thursday or Monday, I mean, the 31st.
Okay. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
You can just announce that you're adjourning, I believe. I don't think we have to have a motion.
That was my thought too. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, Jennifer's checking something.
We basically have 2 weeks to get everything to discuss at the next meeting together.
Well, today is the
Right?
11th.
Well, 2.5 weeks.
So you have almost 3 weeks. You could get it to her by Monday at noon, which will give you a
Okay.
day shy of 3 weeks.
Okay.
I don't want to rush you if that's not going to work.
No,
then
no,
I mean,
no.
like,
No, I just wanted to make sure people realize.
sure.
that.
I would say like no later than noon on the 31st, especially because
Okay.
you guys now with the new agenda management system are mostly putting your items together yourselves. And so then she just has to upload them into the system and publish the agenda. It does
Okay.
save her some time.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And she'll send a reminder out too that they're due.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And
Thank you.
Keith, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you too.
All right. It is 3:58 and 45 seconds.
Ah.